Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Activities of Oman in the French Documents exhibition continue at the Arab World Institute in Paris, France. Coalition airstrikes hit Yemen for a 16th straight day as Pakistan's parliament votes to maintain neutrality in the Yemen conflict. And 13 Afghans are killed in 2 suicide attacks in Afghanistan. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. Activities of Oman in the French Documents exhibition continued at the Arab World Institute in France, which was organized by the National Records and Archives Authority in coordination with the Sultanate's Embassy in Paris, in collaboration with the French Diplomatic Archive Center, the Archive of the French Ministry of Defense, and the National Archive of French. The exhibition aimed to in-depth study the Omani-French political, cultural, economic, social, military, and cultural history relations. It also aimed at emphasizing the importance of the Omani-French relations and its trade role. The exhibition included documentation of international relations, private documents, and a collection of old manuscripts, in addition to photos, stamps, coins, and historical films. Coalition airstrikes hit Yemen for a 16th straight day. In Sana'a, they targeted weapons storage sites used by soldiers loyal to former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, a supporter of the Houthis. Residents said the air raids, which hit the Defense Ministry and other facilities, lasted hours. In Aden, residents said electricity and water had been cut in several districts, rubbish had been left uncollected, and hospitals were unable to cope with the influx of the wounded. Aden residents reported heavy explosions from coalition airstrikes and naval bombardment on Houthi positions, which shook windows throughout the city. An Indian ship captain working in Aden was killed in shelling on the city's dockyard overnight, his company announced. And local news outlets reported that Houthi and allied army units had fired mortars into the area. An airstrike hit a local government compound in the northern suburb of Dar Saad, and fires in Aden's outskirts sent plumes of smoke into the air. Still in Yemen, the first 2 plane loads of medical aid for Yemen landed in the capital Sana'a today, after weeks of conflict which has displaced 100,000 people, and the United Nations appealed for a pause in fighting to allow more aid in. Food imports are choked off, fuel is scarce, cash handouts to the poorest third of the population are suspended, and many parts of the southern city of Aden, scene of heavy street clashes, have been without water or electricity. More than 202,000 people have been wounded by the combat in Yemen. Hospitals in Aden are unable to cope, aid workers say. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, said they finally landed 2 planes in Sana'a on Friday, carrying more than 30 tons of medical equipment after days of delay. Their arrival came 2 days after 2 boatloads of emergency medical aid and teams of surgeons from the ICRC and Médecins Sans Frontières docked in Aden, a city of 1 million people, which an ICRC spokesman said was on the verge of catastrophe. Pakistan's parliament decided today it would not join the Saudi-led coalition targeting rebels in Yemen, with lawmakers adopting a resolution calling on the warring parties to resolve the conflict through peaceful dialogue. After days of debating, Pakistani lawmakers anonymously voted in favor of a resolution saying that the parliament desires Pakistan should maintain neutrality in the Yemen conflict so as to be able to play a proactive diplomatic role to end the crisis. The parliament also urged Muslim countries and the international community to intensify their efforts to promote peace in Yemen. It called on Pakistan's envoys to initiate steps before the United Nations Security Council to bring about an immediate ceasefire in Yemen. A suicide car bomber targeting foreign troops killed 3 Afghan civilians today, while a dozen people on their way to a wedding were killed in a separate roadside blast. The Taliban claimed responsibility for today's attack near the eastern city of Jalalabad on a convoy of foreign troops who are part of a residual training commission for Afghan forces. Jalalabad is the capital of Nangarhar on the border with Pakistan. Elsewhere today, a roadside bomb blew up a car full of people traveling to a wedding in Ghazni province south of Kabul, and 12 people were killed. About half of the dead were women and children. The United Nations said nearly 3,700 civilians were killed and more than 6,800 were wounded last year as fighting intensified ahead of the withdrawal of thousands of foreign combat troops. Still to come in our news bulletin. Wild coffee beans are providing a livelihood for local farmers in Ethiopia and protecting the forest at the same time. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. To continue celebrating the safe return of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos to the homeland, citizens of the Governorate of Musandam organized an artistic celebration to express their sincere feelings and overwhelming happiness. His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of Interior, presided over the ceremony. During the celebration, 8 folkloric items of His Majesty the Sultan were performed by the Governorate citizens. College of Sciences at Sultan Qaboos University organized the 2nd annual exhibition for chemistry. The exhibition is aimed to involve society segments in conducting scientific experiments and getting acquainted with chemistry and its importance in our life. It contained a station to display simple experiments. It also focused on glasses, metals, and ceramics and their erosion. The activities also highlighted the economic and health aspects, as well as the impact of chemicals and the safe way of its uses to minimize damage and cost. His Highness Sayyid Fahd bin Al-Julanda Al-Saeed, Assistant Secretary General of Innovation Development at the Research Council, presided over this ceremony. The Ministry of Civil Service conducted exams and interviews of the announced vacancies for the Governorate of Al-Dhahira according to the vacancies announcements issued on the 4th of March. The announcement included 600 vacancies in ministries and government units subject to civil service law and its executive regulation in various governorates of the Sultanate. The employment examinations are conducted in transparent atmosphere as per the rules and procedures of the central employment system without interference of human. Director General of Health Services in the Governorate of Buraymi organized a seminar to increase awareness among society about H1N1. The seminar is considered one of the efforts to reduce the spread of the disease. According to statistics given by the Ministry of Health, H1N1 represents 15% of the respiratory viruses that were diagnosed. People with different ages attended the seminar, which highlighted 3 topics related to H1N1. The first topic was about the definition of H1N1. The second one was about the latest developments of this disease, while the third was on the fall procedures to avoid it. Reviving the heritage and old traditions that Omani society enjoys and coinciding with the celebration of Nizwa, the capital of Islamic culture 2015, Barza gathering was held at the office of the Wali of Nizwa in Nizwa Fort. The Barza sitting in its image, which gathers Omani thinkers and intellectuals, tells a generations-old story about one of the social traditions that express Omani society. It has been used to discuss aspirations of citizens as well as to create appropriate solutions for different cases. The Lady of Nizwa discusses today with judge, officials of governmental sectors, members of shura and municipal councils, as well as sheikhs, a number of social, economic, cultural, and intellectual issues that concern Omani community. Muscat Securities Market MSM General Index lost 8.6 points, comprising a decline by 0.14% to close at 6,269 points compared to the last session, which stood at 6,277 points. The trading value stood at 2.6 million Omani Riyals, comprising a decline by 51.9% compared to the last session, which stood at 5.4 million Omani Riyals. The report released by MSM pointed out that the market value declined by 0.03% to reach about 14.7 billion Omani Riyals. The report added that the value of shares bought by non-Omani investors reached 633,000 Omani Riyals, comprising 24.2%. The value of shares sold by non-Omani investors reached 651,000 Omani Riyals, comprising 24.9%. The net non-Omani investment declined by 0.7 to 18,000 Omani Riyals. Ugandan writer, director, editor, and producer Isaac Nabwana makes action-packed feature-length films, all for a budget of less than $200, which the cast and crew then sell door to door. After making 46 films in 9 years, Nabwana has high hopes for the local industry. Details in the following report.
A masked man on motorbike falls to the ground, his bike taken by a dreadlocked foe just moments later. A violent scene from crime-prone Kampala? No. This drama playing out is fiction, from the action-packed film Operation Kakangoliro, due for release later this year by Ramon Film Productions. The set is a scrapyard in Wakaliga, a slum in Uganda's capital now baptized with Hollywood. Writer, director, and producer Isaac Nabwana grew up here, listening to descriptions of the movies watched by his older brothers.
My older brothers used to go to cinema halls. For me, I didn't go there. So when they came back, they used to tell me stories about the movies they have watched. Like I remember the likes of Bud Spencer was one of the actors of that time, Wang Yu, Bruce Lee.
Since then, Nabwana has built Ramon Film Productions, Uganda's first action film company, which over the past 9 years has produced around 46 feature-length films. But their success hasn't changed their shoestring budget. Their biggest hit, Who Killed Captain Alex, was shot in 1 month in 2010 for about $200. Props are improvised or created. Rocket launchers made from frying pans and plastic tubes, and condoms full of red food coloring to create gloriously graphic death scenes.
Sometimes Raymond Film Production is missing something, like a gun or weapon. I can modify some grenades. That is toy, but it's not real. When you're in a movie, it's real.
After watching some of Isaac's films in 2011, Alan Hoffman was so inspired he left his film work and came to Uganda. He's since taken up the roles with Hollywood's Bridge to the West, helping promote an internet crowdfunding campaign to raise money for equipment and, hopefully, a proper studio. The films are peddled door to door by the crew for around $1 and watched for free on the internet.
They have the standard problems of anyone else, meaning money, getting people time, things like that. But electricity is a struggle. If we're lucky, we have it 4 days a week. The computers, we build the computers out of scrap parts. Typically they last maybe 3 or 4 months before the dust and heat gets to them. All the gear, they build themselves from scrap metal.
Many in Uganda, looking to Nigeria's booming Nollywood or even Hollywood itself, have high hopes for their own film industry. But Isaac's dream is simpler, to bring his country's stories to the world, one street fight at a time.
Japan's Toyota Motors Corporation is set to rent out its I-Road electric three-wheelers starting from today in a bid to reduce pollution in Tokyo. Drivers can pick up one of the 5 cars at one location but can drop it off at 5 other locations in the city. Select locations will have I-Road charging stations. This service is a partnership between Toyota and Park24, which operates parking lots all across Japan. The three-wheeler is 2.3 meters long and 87 centimeters wide. Although it resembles a motorbike, motorbike, the one-seater requires a car license instead of a motorcycle license. Its top speed is 60 kilometers per hour. The operator said the iRoad has the qualities of a bike. It's easy to make, small, quick turns, and it doesn't take a lot of space when parking. On the other hand, it has the comfort of a regular car where you can drive it in the rain and without a helmet. Ethiopian wild coffee beans are doing more than just feeding the local baboons. They are providing a livelihood for local farmers, finding a market in Italy and protecting the forest at the same time. Here is a report.
Deep in southern Ethiopia's Harena forest, wild coffee trees dominate the undergrowth. Protected from the highland sun by a thick canopy, this is Arabica coffee's natural habitat. And when in season, the coffee beans don't just feed the local baboons, they provide a livelihood for local farmers.
The forest is crucial for our survival, as the coffee gives us a lot of benefits. If we didn't have this forest, we wouldn't be able to harvest and produce this coffee. The coffee survives if the forest is here. If we cut the trees and plant coffee everywhere, then the coffee has a short lifespan. The coffee that grows under the jungle's shade will be here forever. That's why it's so important for us.
Coffee is Ethiopia's main export crop, but these farmers work on a very small scale. Wild coffee plants have a smaller yield than their commercially cultivated cousins, and their beans are slowly sun-dried rather than washed using industrial methods. This, combined with the fact that studies show that wild coffee harvesting helps protect the forests, means that ethical buyers like the Italian slow food movement are taking an interest.
We are talking not only about the coffee, we are talking about the whole nature. And to support and to be with such small producers means to support that ecosystem, that tradition, that way of life, and the sustainability behind that, which is above all more important, because this is the second biggest forest in the country.
Slow food is linking the farmers and their local cooperative directly to coffee roasters in Italy, so that they get the full price of their product. This year, an entire container of wild coffee, the biggest shipment ever, is being sent to Italy where it's highly valued.
I think that this coffee has a very good acidity, and it's like the smell is like floral. It's different from others because it's wild, but also I think because of the altitude, because we are very high.
With the few remaining wild coffee forests in Ethiopia under threat from deforestation, these farmers and their international visitors are hoping this famous hot drink can help protect what's left of them.
Now for the general weather forecast. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of accumulative clouds and rainfalls accompanied by thunder over the Hajar Mountains and nearby areas in the afternoon. Winds along the coastal areas of the Sea of Oman will be northeasterly light to moderate, while along the rest of the Sultanate it will be south to southeasterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Activities of Oman in the French Documents exhibition continue at the Arab World Institute in Paris, France. Coalition airstrikes hit Yemen for a 16th straight day as Pakistan's parliament votes to maintain neutrality in the Yemen conflict. And 13 Afghans are killed in 2 suicide attacks in Afghanistan. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.